Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the SKTLs Space Crypto Talk Volunteers Call. We basically get on here once a week, Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time when the markets close, every Wednesday, and we go over space headlines, crypto headlines, talk about the market in crypto, and go over the Bitcoin and/or some of the other stories out there. We talk about space news. Dan actually has a funny thing he's going to tell us about a minute about alcohol in space, boozing. Yeah, that takes booze cruise to a whole new level, Dan. But the mission of SKTL's space cryptocurrency, SKTL space crypto, is to clean up space debris because it is the single largest, most probable impediment to human beings becoming multiplanetary.
Well, at least definitely an impediment to it happening as fast as possible, for sure, because it's interesting. Everything we talk about with regard to debris, we talk about the technologies being developed, the hardware being developed to start removing and disposing of it. But what's dominating the headlines is all the stuff we're still sending up. So, SpaceX just put up 46 more satellites on back-to-back launches, which was pretty cool. Rocket Lab put a satellite up for a customer. One company, this little Japanese startup launcher called Space One, got almost to treetop level before it
barely got off the pad. It was so close to the ground that they actually started a fire.
Yes, 5 seconds after liftoff. Well, and this rocket's interesting. The first 3 stages are solid fuel, and the final stage on top is liquid. So the solid rockets are okay, but when things go bad and that upper stage ignites from a crash, you get that nice explosive after effect. So, it's going to be a challenge. It's still hard. At the same time, Japan has announced a multi-billion-dollar fund to prop up and stimulate the space economy. So, I think you're going to see, this is indicative of what's happening everywhere. Oh, there you go. And it won't leave the picture.
Look at this.
The camera.
That's not supposed to turn. Not yet. Oh.
Whoop. Stop moving the camera.
Luckily, there were no people on board.
No. Nice coastline.
Jeez. Yeah. Well, and they had actually had to postpone this last week because a ship had entered the no entry zone over there on the ocean. Yeah. And man, that looks horrible.
The thing you look at here is, look at it. It's surrounded by nothing but forest. So I don't know who was doing the planning, but they may have wanted to clear the inside of that little canyon where that launch site is. Otherwise, you're going to burn the whole freaking place down.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that fuel explodes and goes flying. I know they've done all the precautions, obviously. They're smart people, but, I could just see that whole hillside.
Well,
if that thing turned sideways and went 500 yards in one direction and crashed, this would be a whole other story.
Yeah, and I do think they got that fire put out in the forest, but they've it was dangerous.
They have the fire suppression equipment to do it. If
looking at that, I'm actually shocked that, as you just sort of hinted at, it's almost insane that you would launch something that combustible in the middle of a forest. We don't do that in Ruidoso, New Mexico. It would save you. You could launch from the top of Sierra Blanca, and it would save you 13,000 feet worth of travel.
They're a little challenged for real estate in Japan, especially flat real estate. So, a little on desert. But, at the end of the day, just keep going. So they'll get propped up. Hopefully they get all the support they need in Japan. there's some great Japanese companies in the space economy already. So let's, Astroscale and others. So let's
Dan,
let's
Dan,
fingers crossed.
it's a debate all the time. Where, look, that's terrible that launch didn't work. It's terrible for the space economy. We want all of the space things that are very hard to pull off to work so that more money and people will believe in the space economy developing here. But on the other hand, it yet again underscores how hard successful orbital launch is, and that at this moment there's still only two, not even just companies. There are, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe China's also succeeding most of the time. So maybe there are three entities: SpaceX, Rocket Lab, and China, who usually get the rockets sent up properly to orbital space. Is that about right?
Yeah.
The Russians don't?
Yeah, the Russians aren't doing that anymore, right?
It's no, well, no. I mean, they every nickel they can find is, going to their suicide. So I think there's a this consolidation issue around launchers that we all expect to happen with 160 of them out there still breathing. I think whether it's going to be failure outright of a business, can't get funding, investors pull back from the table and say, well, you got me once, but you haven't shown the progress. I'm not there. If they have technology of any kind, any of these companies that's unique or valuable, then maybe there's some acquisitions. Otherwise, it'll be nice try, and the talent's going to consolidate to the surviving few who were already out there buying up the talent. And this is something that doesn't get talked about. But a lot of these small companies with brilliant engineers who came from someplace else with credentials to help the startup are being reeled in many places back to those larger companies. It's like, okay, you went and had your shot, you got some stock, they didn't make it, come on back, we got work to do. And there's a lot of stories of that going on. So whether it's SpaceX, whether it's the primes, whether it's Blue, any of these big ones, they're gobbling up talent. And that is probably the greatest unforeseen risk to the space startup community for those companies who are not well up the technology and revenue curve to where they can protect themselves from being poached with more equity and with bonuses and raises. It's an interesting issue. It's something I'm dealing with in terms of doing some analysis and planning for the business, and it's real.
Bryce and I had a Zoom call last week with Peter Beck, the CEO of Rocket Lab, and frankly, we quite enjoyed the call. I think he did too. We all were space enthusiasts, patting each other on the back and stuff. But he actually mentioned something similar to what you just said. The Rocket Lab, they recently raised a couple $100 million, I think it was, Bryce, and they've got
maybe 300. Yeah,
they've been putting more cash on their balance sheet, partly because he thinks the space winter is continuing to impact the ability for startups to raise money, and there are some good companies and/or talent out there that he now has extra money, maybe not extra money, but money that he can spend on such things. Where before his $300 million raise, his balance sheet was a little tighter.
Buried in the use of proceeds for that raise somewhere is the non-sexy part, which is we need to add X number of engineers to the team. And that's where this issue really starts to loom large, because while we're graduating a lot of engineers again as a country, that's not what people want to hire. They want to hire somebody with experience and, fresh out of school, even, with a graduate degree. If you don't have 3, 4, 5 years mixed in there in grad school, working on the ground at a company, we're going through it now. We're going to get some interns, but they're not going to be able to do the heavy lifting that we need. So we're also going to have to go find some senior people. So it's a workforce issue. It's a big topic. I'm at the Satellite 2024 conference next week, so I won't be here, in DC, which is the largest conference of its type in North America for the, quote, satellite industry, but it's anybody and everybody. The whole space industry will be there. The military will all be there. It's massive. It's probably 4,000 or 5,000 people attending. So there'll be a lot of discussion, especially about some of this newer news on the communication side, where all these constellations that we're always talking about, to shift gears a little bit, this big move to multi-band, holistic constellations that talk together for national security. The government's leaning heavy on the private sector, all these communications companies, all these satellite communications companies, to be able to basically connect all of those constellations for the purposes of national security. This is a major initiative, I think. That's where we're going, because they're depending on the private sector.
Bryce and I have also spent a lot of time over the last year and a half working on the AI revolution. And we've been in NVIDIA for 8 years, believe it or not. And we've been believers, been writing about the AI revolution for 5 or 7 years and whatnot. But the reason I bring it up is because, interestingly, like, AI is getting to a point where ChatGPT, Gemini, and Grok and other large language models can create the software code that does what lower level coding people would do, and it's getting better all the time in different languages and in its sophistication. But it's dependent upon having enough data to learn that stuff. And I'm not sure in the space industry there's been enough successful launches over, with data about consumers. You have trillions of data points.
Sure.
About spending patterns of consumers. You have billions of data points.
And there's trillions of inputs. That's the point.
Right, and many different kinds. But whereas launch, SpaceX knows what it's doing. Blue Origin occasionally does. Rocket Lab does. But, Rocket Lab gets 14 successful launches in a good year. That's not a lot of data about what makes rocket ships work well. So what I'm getting at is we're not at a point yet where someone could be like, hey, Gemini, ChatGPT, put together a beautiful scheduling plans for architecture plans for a rocket ship.
Oh, no.
Autodesk can do that for houses in the next few months, but nobody can do that for rocket ships.
No one wants, on the other end of the stick, to have to rely yet on that. A house is one thing. Betting a known, structure, thousands of years of history behind that. First thing that AI isn't going to get a hold of is targeting solutions in space. It will be a critical player in identification and everything, but you can't leave some of these decisions up to it alone because it is not yet proven out. It's not been tested in a live fire exercise with real bullets flying, and it has to perform. And I think this is where people, this is great. It's going to be around forever. It's got a long tail to it. The AI that we're going to see right now in space is at a more basic level of AI, where it's going to make things far more efficient, can do a whole bunch of tasks. But when it gets down to decision making, I think you're still going to have carbon-based life forms very much involved in keeping an eye on the silica-based pseudo life forms.
What if there's a planet made out of silicon that the intelligent life forms there are actually silicon-based, Dan? Then you would have a silicon-based living decision maker.
we found evidence of life on Earth that is not carbon-based, that grows in some of these very bizarre locations where it could be based on silica. That's one of the only other things other than carbon that we can see a pathway. But who knows, right?
I wonder if silicon...
see the Star Wars bar for reference.
Yeah, there you go. I wonder if silicon carbide chips are eventually going to just instantly autonomously become alive because it has both silicon and carbon. Hey, the other thing that what the three of us probably should do is quit our jobs right now and go start. Get this. You got the three trendiest, the two trendiest, and the third coming. We should start a crypto-based AI space company. Game over, baby. Billions of dollars in funding tomorrow. Crypto AI space. Let's just call it, and look, we'll go public in a SPAC. We'll de-SPAC somewhere. We'll find some crappy SPAC that's got it set up there ready to go. And our stock symbol will be space.ai. SPCAI, spay. Ooh, better than
spay. No,
better than UTR.
Well, yes,
yeah. Let's talk about the rocket, space rocket, space Starship. That's what I'm trying to say. We've got Starship launch, the third Starship launch coming out. Tomorrow is what they're hoping for. Is that still the plan?
So, yeah. It's so nonchalant with that.
Did you see the 60 Minutes? I watch 60 Minutes occasionally. I'm not anti 60 Minutes, but I am. It was crazy what 60 Minutes did recently, where they showed the Starship blowing up the second time. And then they cut to a NASA administrator that they're interviewing, and they're like, so you've learned that private space companies come with a lot of risk. And the guy's like, we learned that the Starship blew up. But they cut it just right there and made it look like...
Well, that's CBS. That's 60 Minutes. The infamous editing of 60 Minutes. The infamous editing of 60 Minutes. Since Mike Wallace was a pup, it was always that way. That was the old saying, working in New York, right? The last thing you want to hear is 60 Minutes is here. They want to do an interview because you're going to get chopped up.
You remember Andy Rooney, of course, Dan? Bryce probably doesn't know who I'm talking about now, but Andy Rooney, the sweetest, cutest little old man in the world. Yeah. I met him once in New York after we were leaving some sort of opera event or something, and he and his adorable little wife were trying to put on their coats we were getting our coats from the checkout. And he was a sweet, I was like, can I help you with that? And he looked at me and he's like, oh, that would be so nice. And I put it on. He was a great guy. So not all 60
Minutes. On YouTube, Bryce, he was hysterical because he did
everybody, Republican, Democrat.
At the end, he would do this little piece about things that would annoy him. And it would be kind of like, did you ever notice that when he would start talking, he had that kind of voice.
Yeah.
And it was just hysterical. But
that's actually a pretty good impersonation there. That sounded a little bit like him.
Yeah. Well,
have you guys heard of Bitcoin? This Bitcoin? Ever heard of Bitcoin? Yeah. Okay. Just making sure. It hit an all-time high yesterday, the day before today, the day before that. Oh, yeah. All of this is true. Bitcoin's on fire. I'm worried, for the record. Let me just put it out here on the call. I wrote about this last week for Trading with Cody. Let me be explicit. I don't know that it's tomorrow. I don't know that it's next month, but I think we're getting somewhere over the course of the next few months. We're gonna finish this latest hype cycle in crypto, and 99% of the existing cryptos out there are heading down 90%. I think we're going to have another crypto winter, probably starting this summer, and it's going to last for another year or two. Bitcoin's probably headed to 50,000 or below over the course of that at some point. And then next year, Bitcoin will be back at 100,000, and all those shit coins, those crap coins, are going to be down 90% and not coming back.
That would be a good name for a new crypto, for recycling waste or something.
Yeah. Maybe we should start a crypto. When I started SKTLs, the reason we ended up doing space debris was because I'm very excited about the space revolution, and space debris is a crisis for everyone if you're on this planet. And so we were trying to do good for the planet with that. But I thought about it at the same time, wouldn't it be cool to start a crypto that would go up when the meme coins and the shit coins and all these stupid, fraudulent, silly cryptos that are out there go down? So I'd still like to do that. I'd like to be able to short all of the 90% of the look at Coinbase. They've got how many tokens? Hundreds of tokens that you can lose your money on, and 3 or 4 that'll probably make you money, including Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum and Solana and stuff, Dogecoin. But the vast majority of those that are not in the top 5 or 10, 99% of them are going down 90%. Please avoid them. Don't be playing with your savings trying to make money on Bonk or Hex. Hex got crushed. I wish Cabana was here. Hex was down 55% this weekend because Richard Hart said you should sell your eHex, which is Ethereum-based Hex, and keep your Pulse Chain Hex, which is his version of Ethereum that he rolled out and makes money on anyway. But the bad news was
no conflict there.
eHex went down 55%, and Hex itself popped 20% and then went back. So everybody lost money. Don't ask a Hexagon that, though, because they'll tell you it worked out. No, still we're up. Next week we're going up. Meanwhile, I'll also mention the Bitcoin miners. Stay the hell away from the Bitcoin miners. Maybe Marathon is okay. Most of those Bitcoin miners are fraudulent or wildly overpriced. And if they are fraudulent, by definition, they are also wildly overpriced. But it's crazy. You look at most of those crypto miners. I don't understand why people want to own them. They're trading at 10 times their net asset value and 15 or 20 times the amount of crypto Bitcoin that they can mine. And that's before the halving. Their revenues are cut in half with the halving.
Are they a weak proxy in the minds of investors who don't want to trade the coin, so they trade the players around the industry? I mean, because what you're saying is buy the coin, stay away from the industry players is what you're really saying.
No, and Dan, it made some sense that there was an artificial boost of demand for Bitcoin miners when you couldn't buy a Bitcoin ETF. But as anybody who has a stock brokerage account anywhere in this country can buy IBIT or ARCB or one of the actual real Bitcoin ETFs, and there's no reason to use proxies anymore. So just stay away out of them. That's my biggest advice for you today. Avoid the meme coins right now and avoid the Bitcoin miners.
Well, and for the less experienced and active investor, staying out of that traffic is a wise thing to do, because if you're not there 24/7, you're going to get body parts handed to you. So you're better off just with the ETF. And the same goes for trading good old fashioned stocks. It's unless you're in it up to your eyeballs, let somebody else choose the stocks for you. That's all.
Bryce, are you in stocks are you in stock analysis up to your eyeballs? That's actually over here. Like you and I are immersed in stock analysis.
Over your head, up to your ceiling, I guess.
Yeah, that's all we do.
That's that haze around Bryce right there. That's all stocks. That's like analysis.
Because he's been thinking. Analysis. That's the wood burning. That's the smoke from the wood burning. He's been doing a lot of thinking.
It's all my 6-year-old Dell computer now just sits here and.
No, that's what's doing it.
Yeah, I think it runs on coal. In fact. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, we got a couple of guys with them where they have got the pull start, like a mower. So.
Hey, Bryce, I have got a camera for your computer somewhere. We've got I think this every time I get on any Zoom call or this call with you. Look how clear Dan and we are in HD, and your 8-year-old Dell running on coal. Apparently, not in HD.
No, I know. Yeah.
Maybe if you upgrade it to natural gas, would it maybe go HD?
Yeah, or nuclear.
Well,
There you go.
it's a Flintstone computer. There's a gerbil inside with binoculars that's just transmitting the picture.
That's funny. That's how I run my fridge at home.
Yeah.
All right. So what we learned today is Japan having problems doing launches like everyone else. Turns out space is hard.
But they're investing heavily against it.
Yeah, that's right. Japan is going to throw billions
Multi-billion-dollar
more
fund.
into space. Yep. And while we're on crypto, I just realized, look what I found the other day. This was from my Fox days. One of my producers made me this because I used to always talk about Bubblehead Ben Bernanke.
Vladimir Crypto.
No, that's Ben Bernanke on bubble wrap. So it's Bubblehead Ben Bernanke.
Oh,
but that's why
this
is why I've been in Bitcoin for 11 years. Bubblehead.
You should get something else with Powell on it, like have all the Fed chairs made out of different
materials. I should get a balloon. I should get a balloon with Powell's face on it.
Yeah, or cardboard.
Yeah. You can make targets for shooting practice. You can do all kinds of stuff. Anyway.
We'll wrap up today's call. I've been meaning to put this out so it's actually on that. See, wouldn't that look nice right there? Starship.
Very nice.
Yeah. So, all right. Anyway, guys, thank you for being here today. That's sort of hot. Ooh, you can burn yourself with that.
I'm just waiting for you to remove your eyebrows or something with that.
No, that would be bad. Look,
give yourself a new part in your hair. One of the two.
Hey, look, Dan.
Oh, there we go.
It's wrapped in plastic. My wife got me these 2 years ago. I've smoked a total of 0 of them.
Oh, put it somewhere where it'll stay nice and moist. Don't do that.
It's in a humidifier. Right there.
Yeah. Is it moist in there or is it just
probably cold? Not? Probably it was 6 months ago.
That thing is Tinder right now, so it needs to be swaddled.
I think we need to end this call before Cody burns down the office.
That is a good idea. Dan, last word. Bryce, last word. What do you guys got?
Just more to come. Have a great week. You're going to see a lot of headlines in the next week to 2 weeks. So watch Space News because a lot of announcements come out of these conferences, and there are a lot of them planned for next week.
Cool. And fingers crossed, Starship gets to orbit. Let's do this. Bryce, your last word. What do you got?
I'm super excited for Starship. I think this is the Starship year, I think. So
2024, year of the Starship.
Yeah, There you go.
Yeah. Peace and love. Thanks for being here, everybody. See you guys next week. Danless will be Dan Geraci-less, but the rest of us will be here.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Bryce.